Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Faith Builder. Hope you're doing well this morning. I want to go back to this issue of contentment. It's such a big issue and it's such a hard issue for us all to wrestle with and really lay hold of in many ways. Obviously, last time we talked, we looked at Paul's great words in Philippians 4, where he says, "Not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content." He said he's learned to be content in whatever situation he was in, whether he was abased, he talks about, in others where he had hardly anything. And he learned to be content also where he was in abundance. I think for many of us, I know myself, sometimes it's harder to be content in the midst of abundance than it is in a place of not having much. But either way, the goal that Paul lays hold of for us is we're to learn contentment in whatever situation we're at, and that can only happen by a divine move of the Spirit of God inside our hearts to understand truly what contentment is all about. This issue of consumerism really attacks our ability to be content, really more than anything. And there's kind of this progression of 6 C's. I just want to give them to you to think about this morning. It starts with coveting. It goes back to the 10th commandment, right? Thou shalt not covet. And once we start coveting, start desiring, our neighbor's this or that, it leads to comparison. Now look how this flows. And once we start comparing what we have with someone else, that leads to a spirit of competition. We start competing. We start trying to acquire more, the old saying of trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? And from competition, it leads to consumerism, where when we're competing with each other, we're buying more, we're trying to consume, trying to build up our self-worth, whatever it may be. But from that point, the next C that gets us to contentment, where we have to come to is contrition, is I have to come to a place where I realize that I'm not going to be satisfied with being any kind of consumerism except for what God gives me, and learning to be content with what He gives me. Bondage to consumerism creates an ever-increasing desire for more, but it results in an ever-decreasing satisfaction along the path of acquiring more. Now, a couple guys that knew all too well the issue of consumerism and wealth, just the two of the richest men to ever walk on the face of the earth. One is King Solomon. And later in his life, he said this in the book of Ecclesiastes. This is chapter 5, verse 10, and also chapter 6, verses 1 through 2. King Solomon said this: "He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is vanity. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires, yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them." King Solomon died. He let his wealth, he let all of his multiple wives and everything else rob his heart from being content in God and pursuing God the rest of his life. Another guy, this is Abdur ar-Rahman the third. Now listen to this. This is fascinating. Abd ar-Rahman III was born in 891 AD. He became the Emir of Cordoba in his early 20s, and he spent the next 5 decades becoming one of the most powerful rulers of his time. He built incredible palaces, stunning mosques. He raised a powerful navy, subdued rebellions, and consolidated Muslim power in Spain that lasted for centuries. He grew so powerful that he was able to claim the title Caliph, leader of all Muslims in the world. This absolute ruler lived in opulence and luxury. It is said that his harem included 6,000 women. In terms of money, power, and fame and pleasure, nothing was denied him at all. He must have been in bliss, right? But here in his own testimony, listen to what he has to say. "I have now reigned about 50 years in victory or peace, beloved by my subjects, dreaded by my enemies, and respected by my allies. Riches and honors, power and pleasure have waited on my call, nor does any earthly blessing appear to have been wanting my felicity." Everything, he could have anything he wanted. Sounds great, right? But listen to this. Abd ar-Rahman continued his thought. "In this situation, I have diligently numbered the days of pure, genuine happiness, which have fallen to my lot, and they amount to 14. Neither Solomon or Abd ar-Rahman even though they had everything at the snap of a finger, they did not know anything of contentment. And for Solomon's sake, he let wealth and bondage to consumerism and the things of the world rob his heart from God. And so this issue of contentment is critically important for us to lay hold of. It is a spiritual blessing. It is part of what it is to experience the peace of God. And so I hope that blessing of contentment will be yours. Hope this blesses you. Have a great day.